Melania was a model from Eastern Europe who was brought to the United States, who would attend these parties where the rich men would show up and mingle with the model. Melania's previously made posts about how proud she is of her nudes, but did you know that after Donald Trump and Melania met, she got what was called an Epstein visa? Right now, Russia, it's weaponizing Melania's past. I don't know if you know this, but on Russian TV, they frequently show Melania nude in order to mock Donald Trump.
Russian media just broadcasted nude photos of Melania Trump on live TV. Yes, you heard that right, but why now? And with Melania once proudly defending those pictures, how does this scandal flip her story entirely? Stick around as we uncover the shocking details and dive into how her journey to the White House may not be what you think. Before we move on, I will like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Why is Russian media digging up Melania's old nude photos now? These images, originally published 2 decades ago as part of her modeling career, are suddenly back on screens, but with a far nastier purpose.
They were linked by someone named Paolo Zampoli, who's become an ambassador under Donald Trump, a high-ranking government official. Melania arrived in the United States from Slovenia in 1996 for modeling work, and then she obtained her green card around 2001 based on her extraordinary ability as a model. So Donald Trump meets Melania at the KitKat Club, and then they develop a relationship with each other, and then let's talk about what happened.
During a brazen segment aired on Russian television, presenters showed the photos while taking aim at Donald Trump, painting the images as not just an embarrassment to Melania, but a direct jab at Trump's credibility. The message was clear. This wasn't just about Melania's past, it was about mocking the US through the Trumps. Now, just to make things even messier, let's talk irony. Back in the day when those photos first surfaced, Melania stood behind them like a rock. Her defense, they were art. These weren't your run-of-the-mill tabloid pictures. They were high-fashion shots that showcased creativity and pushed boundaries, or so she argued. But it's funny how something celebrated as art can suddenly feel like live ammunition in a world where reputations are everything. Russian media isn't viewing them through the same glamorous lens. Instead, they're presenting her as a symbol of America's absurd leadership, with the underlying tone that Trump married into scandal and indulgence. And you can almost hear Trump's voice yelling "fake news" as his face turns red, or oranger in this case. Now, you might wonder, why does Russia even care about broadcasting Melania Trump's modeling controversies?
Melania, Donald Trump's dark past, it's resurfacing in ways it's his worst nightmare. Donald Trump went to a club in Manhattan called the KitKat Club, where there were parties that were frequently thrown for very rich Manhattan elites, businessmen. How did Donald Trump meet Melania? On or around the same time he was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Because intentionally or not, this is bigger than cheap laughs. It's geopolitics wrapped in drama. Russia has long mastered the art of undermining Western figures by attacking them on a personal level, and Trump, who's flip-flopped between cozying up to and denouncing Putin, is an ideal target. Russia knows his Achilles heel is his ego, and dragging Melania into this spectacle is like poking the bear. And speaking of history, this isn't the first time Melania's past has been weaponized. Much has been said about her rise from Slovenia to one of the most exclusive zip codes in the world. Remember her Epstein visa? Officially, it was called an EB1 visa, but it's nicknamed that because it's reserved for people with extraordinary abilities. Nobel Prize winners, Oscar-winning actors, acclaimed scientists, you get the point. So when Melania secured one, despite not exactly moving the modeling world to tears, it raised eyebrows. Critics pointed to this fast-track visa as yet another inconsistency in the curated Trump narrative, implying that behind the family's well-polished image lurked cutting corners, exaggerations, and in some cases, outright fabrications. To put it bluntly, the photos aren't just about Melania, they're about questioning how far she and Trump bent reality to elevate themselves. But here's the real twist. If Russia thinks making Melania look bad will destroy Trump, it might just be missing the mark. See, Trump isn't exactly known for shining shying away from melodrama. This is the guy who's built a career out of blasting his enemies and weaponizing scandals. So the thought of him watching the broadcast, pacing around Mar-a-Lago in his evening golf attire, furiously pondering how to retaliate, is both comical and on brand. Would he throw Melania under the bus to protect himself? Absolutely not. At least not until comparisons to Stormy Daniels start making the rounds again. Then all bets are off.
She was treated like a genius, an exceptional achievement visa that gave her a fast track to become a United States citizen. This is 1997. How sweet. Trump's Brit of all right. Just weeks after ditching his second wife, America's best-known billionaire Donald Trump has fallen under the spell of a 20-year-old English girl. This was before Melania, when he met London model Anuska DeGiorgio at a party in Manhattan. Several American millionaires already had their eyes on Anuska, but she was there with Robert Maxwell's daughter, Ghislaine.
So why now? Why is Russian media resurfacing a moment that Melania and Trump likely hoped was long buried? It's about tapping into the public's short memory and long appetite for sensationalism. People have barely begun to digest the countless Trump-era headlines, and resurfacing something this salacious guarantees instant chatter. Plus, if there's one thing politics has taught us, it's that personal lives have become prime real estate for attacks. Forget policies and debates. Now it's about what you wore, who you dated, and apparently how much of your bare skin landed on magazine covers in the early 2000s. But here's the bigger question. Is this tactic limited to flashy TV broadcasts, or is there more waiting to come out of the woodwork? Melania's story on its own has raised more questions than answers over the years, from her visa journey to her infamous "I really don't care, do you" jacket. Could these photos be just one piece of a larger effort to dismantle her carefully guarded image? Or does the resurfacing of these moments hint at a broader strategy, one that's more calculated than chaotic? The takeaway? This isn't just about nudity on TV screens or old controversies. It's about how personal narratives can be weaponized to unsettle entire nations. Russia broadcasting these photos isn't simply a jab at the Trump family. It's a chunk of raw meat tossed into the political arena, meant to draw every critic, every skeptic, and every gossip enthusiast into the mix. What started as a seemingly singular insult has spiraled into a broader commentary on how personal lives, secrets, and scandals are now tools in the geopolitical playbook.
Donald Trump's out there doing that, and then Donald Trump's out there going to these parties at the KitKat Club to meet. This is separate than what I just said. This is separate. He's just going out there to meet, these young models. In 1997, he's out there partying with Epstein and Ghislaine. So Donald Trump goes to the KitKat Club, and let's just see the story as reported by the New York Times about how Donald and Melania met at the KitKat Club.
But speaking of secrets, that brings us to Melania's early life in America, because if these photos are causing a stir, wait until we look at the clubs she frequented back in the day, the KitKat Club in particular, and how her fateful meeting with Trump may not have been the romantic story they love to tell. The story, at least from Melania's perspective, was always painted as a chance meeting, their eyes locked across the crowded party, a perfectly constructed romantic cliche. But according to Zampoli himself, it wasn't so accidental. He had invited Melania with the specific purpose of introducing her to Trump. Call it matchmaking, call it a power move. Either way, it worked. For Trump, it was the perfect environment to charm someone new. For Melania, the opportunity had virtually walked over and offered her its phone number. Zampoli deserves credit for the setup, although let's face it, this scenario feels more like an application for The Bachelorette than some destined romance. But then there's the elephant, or should we say plane, in the room. Jeffrey Epstein. Yep, his name keeps circling whenever Trump and Melania's relationship roots are dug up. There's a rumor that their first private encounter wasn't at the KitKat Club at all, but on Epstein's luxury jet, infamously dubbed the Lolita Express. According to Epstein, who apparently told author Michael Wolff, "The first time he slept with Melania was on my plane." It's jaw-dropping, even by Trump standards, and of course opens the door to far more questions about what that meeting entailed and what role Epstein might have played in ensuring their paths crossed. Maybe it's assumptions piling on, or maybe Epstein had more to do with this picture-perfect introduction than anyone wants to admit. Now Melania, who had already been in America for some time, wasn't exactly a breakout star in the modeling world. Her career wasn't leaving Tyra Banks quaking in her heels, and her headshots weren't exactly exactly topping casting directors' stacks. She was, in every sense, a mid-level model who had her sights set on something bigger, although how she defined bigger is still a matter of debate. And then along came Trump. Suddenly, her quiet shuffle through the industry turned into a rocket ride toward the top. And fun fact, it was Zampoli who helped her secure her prestigious and highly controversial EB-1 visa, aka the Einstein visa. Critics have long wondered how Melania's qualifications even fit the visa's requirements. Was her photoshoot portfolio considered extraordinary? Or, as the skeptics argue, was Zampoli the oil to the wheels that fast-tracked her to citizenship? Melania Trump's journey from a small-town Slovenian model to First Lady of the United States reads less like fate and more like a series of calculated steps. From securing an Einstein visa to navigating her relationship with Trump through high-profile and controversial moments, her rise has always been cloaked in mystery, but it begs the question, was Melania's story about ambition, love, or simply opportunistic timing? The intersection of power, image, and silence in her life reveals a carefully curated public persona, and yet, with every detail uncovered, it's clear the full story behind Melania Trump remains just out of reach.